pretty fiery interview didn't end that well. But the president making a point here, and the markets are watching all of this. They're watching the duration go on and wondering what will come next and what will end this finally. Fresh strikes overnight certainly don't make investors, feel very optimistic or confident that this is going to close soon.
Yeah, I mean, and Jackie, if this was happening at a time that the market was demonstrably cheap, you could say, okay, maybe there's a time to get in here. But we've also got the reality of overvalued tech stocks. And this has been the fact. I mean, as you've pointed out, Micron, NVIDIA, these have had monster runs for months now. So I'm kind of channeling my old high school hockey coach. He once said that a good defense is your best offense. So I'm playing defense with my clients right now. I mean, the average American is carrying something on the order of $12,000 of dollars in credit card debt per household. So I'm worried about the average American, their ability to buy the dip, which is why I think most people should be careful given the volatility we just saw on Friday.
I'm surprised, even given the volatility that we saw on Friday, with the developments that we saw over the weekend, that this would be a market that is up today. And oil, I think, is trading now back under $92 a barrel. So, Taylor, I'm wondering what you make of that. This is just, to me, and it's the NASDAQ that's up the most today, investors saying, I want to get back in this.
Yes, absolutely. So after 9 straight consecutive weeks of gains off the March lows, a healthy reset on Friday is not totally unexpected. That is good news and should be welcomed, I think, to Jonathan's point. Another sort of speculation that I have out there, we're really excited about SpaceX on Friday. I know everyone at this table is equally as excited as I am about SpaceX on Friday. So how much of this is like you kind of sell what you have to free up some liquidity if you're going to start to buy monstrous IPOs this summer, profit taking? I know we'll talk about Micron and Marvell later, but that's up 220% year to date. So if I'm looking to buy a new hot IPO, maybe I kind of sell a winner. That could be some other speculation out there. Jackie, I think you also nailed it when you're hinting at it's a market that wants to go higher because of massive fundamentals, strong earnings growth that are continuing to accelerate. And again, we're kind of in this lull now, but Q1 was good and Q2 is expected to be good. And I bring you a fundamental chart of the day about AI. We've talked about business formation being higher in sectors that are using AI more than sectors that are not using AI. This is now founders, either multi-founders or solo founders. New business formation is being created by individual solo founders. And I would take a thing out of Dakin's playbook where if you go and open up AI, pick your roulette card, you can open up and create a business plan and start a business at the back of your hand in 2 seconds. Yeah. So if you're looking at the economy on fundamentals and seeing all these like new startups that are starting and you're thinking it's pretty cheap because I can do it on this thing in 15 seconds and you're starting to see new businesses being formed by one little guy at home, that's the strength of the underlying economy that I think the market is betting on.
And I hear you on that. I make that case all the time. But then people shoot back at me on social media and they say things like unemployment is at near like record highs. And they say things like inflation is soaring.
And AI is killing jobs.
AI is killing jobs. And that is the narrative that is out there, at least if you're watching certain outlets or reading certain papers. So
none of that's true.
Right.
Absolutely none of that is true.
Right.
None of it. No, there's no data that bears any of that out. And I'm not dismissing gasoline prices and energy prices and consumer prices, broadly speaking, going in the wrong direction, but none of that is true. And if you push back on people and say, where are you getting your information? You're a political pawn. Then they get angry. I'm like, well, then you need to be better. Like, who do you know who has lost their job because of AI? Oh, because their corporation told them that? Because their corporation is falling on hard times for other reasons? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I mean, that's how I was coming to you.
I don't want to sit here and monopolize the conversation, but I can go through data from 3 years, 1 year, continue.
You don't think that AI is going to result in certain jobs being completely eliminated or lost? I mean, look, we used to have video store clerks. We used to have elevator operators. We used to have icemen, people who literally deliver the ice. New technology destroyed all of them. I mean, I'm from the school that says, and this is backward, that a civilization is demonstrated by the amount of jobs that are destroyed. They're destroyed because new jobs are created. We just don't know exactly what they're going to get. And that's why
net job creation, new business formation, diseases that are cured because of AI. Rather than what is wrong with the technology, I lean toward what is right with the technology, and this is coming from a self-professed curmudgeon.
Just a little.
Weigh in on this, Brian, because things are not perfect, but it's hard to ever find a time in history where everything is perfect, but they're really not that bad either. And we're dealing with a situation in the Middle East where the president keeps saying, I'm doing this to restore global order for the future, for our children, for everybody. And yet people are not supportive of what he's doing there either.
There's never been a time in history where things have been perfect, right? We're always speaking about what's going on from the standpoint of what we just experienced. And so I think that's really important to keep in mind. Yeah, the president's making a huge long-term play here. And I've a million times in this show said I think that long-term play is worth it, even if it creates short-term pain. I have to confess, I have no idea what's going on right at the moment, though. I have no idea. And I don't need to know. I'm not a military guy. I'm not on the inside. I don't know how the negotiations are going. I'm not the kind of guy who has to know that. I'm going to make an admission, though, and I think this probably cuts against what the president's working for right now, and that is when the shooting started this weekend again, and Israel was taking out missile launchers, I was kind of happy about that.
Because at least why? There's at least progress? Something's happening?
Because I think missile launchers are a problem for the United States of America when they exist in Iran and are controlled by the IRGC, and I want to see them gone. And I don't believe these guys that they're negotiating in good faith. And I was kind of glad to see us doing something about that, or at least Israel doing something about that. Now, I know that's not what the president wants. The president said quit shooting. Apparently, he's got some beef with Netanyahu, but I kind of wonder if there's a little bit of good cop, bad cop going on right now.
There could be.
I kind of wonder if Netanyahu's doing a little bit of this because the president and President Trump is playing good cop. He wants to get Iran off the dime, and he wants to get them to agree to something. I don't know, but it kind of has that feel to me a little bit. I can't say that's not true.
And I just push back on and challenge. I want to see something happen, too. I want to see action. I want to see this finished, the job finished in the way that we were promised it would be from the get-go. And I hear you on that. The only thing that I kind of vacillate on is I think about the president's strategy, and I think he's being cautious and trying all diplomatic avenues because he's worried about the risks that come along with what the next phase of military action would be. And if that would be, and there's always a risk of this, that ultimately it gets to a place where you would have to deploy boots on the ground, that would be a real problem for him. And so I think he is trying to avoid that at any cost.
I actually agree with you. I think he hates war. I don't think he likes fighting. He likes making deals. And I think he gets no credit from his critics, by the way, give him no credit for that. They say, well, nothing's happening. It's a quagmire. No, it's a president who prefers peace, but he defends American interests, and he's trying to defend American interests through negotiations. So I'm with you on that. But there's the
uncertainty.
Maybe it's the irrational side of me. Maybe it's the emotional side of me. Maybe it's just like the little bit of spiritedness side of me, Jackie, that says, I don't trust Iran. I don't really think they want to make a good deal. I don't think they have any moral authority to be in charge of their country. I think the people who live there would be better off without them. And if we can blast, as the president says, blast the heck out of the regime and get them out of there, I think that's a win for the world.
All right, we've got the 30-year up. Just for a final word, anybody can take it. Dagan, yields today?
Well, the stock market mania, those you're willing to step back in and bid back up any AI-related stock, these borrowing costs don't really matter to them, quite frankly, because the mania, I think you see on display today, the mania is not yet broken. And I have no idea what breaks this bubble fixation on artificial intelligence. It's not that. That's in part related to we're overseas in the Middle East for God knows how long. One issue I think to pay attention to is Meta came out. There was a report a couple of days ago that Meta, Facebook's parent, is considering raising equity following the $85 billion equity sale by Alphabet. This is just to keep spending money on AI, CapEx, and the hyperscaler infrastructure spend. So far, Meta's spend has not been worthwhile. If you aren't staying in the pack, that's Meta's problem. You've got Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, but Meta is falling behind, and it's mismanagement. They spent billions of dollars and still couldn't attract and retain the talent they needed. And I don't know what unwinds the kind of mania of all of this, but it'll be something that no one is.
Well, it could be higher rates. I mean, I'll quickly say it really frightens me to see that 30-year above 5%. We're talking about 20-some-odd-year highs. And, I was thinking about this as I was spending my Doge check. Oh, wait a minute, I didn't get that Doge check. So government hasn't cut spending like it promised it would. So this is what I think the markets worry about. Inflation has not been put back in that toothpaste tube. And I fear that we're maybe something like 76 or 77, and inflation's about to rear its ugly head again.
All right,
it takes more than higher rates to break a delusion in the market that just kind of looks past valuations that just make no sense on planet Earth.
I know Taylor's salivating to talk about bond yields, but we have to
Next time,
Eli Lilly.
These are not cycle highs yet, right?